Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a list of some books that I've recently unhauled. We have fantastic local used bookstores where I live, so I took the books in and got quite a bit of store credit, which was wonderful. But either way, I also DNF'd a couple of these books, and I'm going to start with those ones. First up, we have Priory of the Orange Tree. This was not a book that I was hating by any means. It is a very chunky standalone. And it also is a little bit slower to start. When I asked all of you if you thought I should continue going on, because I was about 100 pages in and I still just wasn't really feeling it, and it was kind of putting me in a reading slump, I would say the majority of input was positive as far as your feelings toward the book. A few people were saying if you're feeling lukewarm now, you probably aren't going to feel all that different by the end. But either way, I have a digital copy of this book. My husband a while back saw it on sale and he bought the digital copy for me. So I just figure if I want to come back to this book at some point, I can always pick up the digital copy, and better to turn in the physical because I know there are so many people that would love to own the book. There's so many people that would love to try it out for themselves. So my local used bookstore will sell it for a discounted price. Next up, we have the second DNF. This is one that I don't really plan on trying again in the future, unlike Priory. So that would be The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. So this was a buddy read book with Jessie May. I'll have her channel linked. She's lovely. And I actually was reading this book alongside Jess Owens and Abby. I'll have all of their channels linked. And Abby, poor Abby, because the rest of us were kind of like, about the book. The writing style is very interesting. It's quite different, but it also led me to feel like I wasn't going to connect with the characters at any point. It's a little bit convoluted, and I decided instead to pick up Age of Assassins by this same author, and I couldn't believe it was even the same author. It's night and day, completely different. For those of you who also picked up The Bone Ships, one, I hope you really enjoyed it. But also, if you found you weren't that interested, I would recommend trying out Age of Assassins because it does feel so different from The Bone Ships. But either way, this is just one that I think is not my cup of tea. I don't think I'm really ever going to click with it. So again, better to turn it in to my local used bookstore and somebody else can find it. Moving on to the rest of the Unhaul. These are not books that I DNF. Those were my only DNFs from this last quarter. So the rest of these I took in because I read them and I didn't love them, or I have one that I never read, and I rarely do that. I think I've done this maybe once before, and it's actually for the same reason. So the book would be The Prince of Nothing. I have read some grim dark that I have found is just a little too dark for my taste. It's why I think I enjoy Abercrombie, because I think a lot of people would agree. In fact, I did an unpopular Abercrombie opinions video, and a lot of people said this very thing, that Abercrombie doesn't feel all that dark, and I think that's why I like his style of grim dark. I have heard Prince of Nothing is about as dark as you can get. I've also heard that there is a lot of sexual assault in the book. I think that for my personal reading taste, I just have a feeling that it's not going to be an enjoyable reading experience for me. And obviously, you know, I think that something that is amazing about books is that they can have these really heavy things within them, and they can be shedding light on these things, or maybe the people who are experiencing these things can be heroic and it can be kind of empowering, or there's so many different ways that you can go about it. I'm not saying that books should never contain that content. I've just heard there is a lot of it, and I'm just not sure that it's going to be for me. So I ultimately decided I would take it in. I actually did have a fair amount of you also say, that one's pretty dark. I don't know if you're going to like it. So I'm kind of trusting your opinion on this one as well. I know a lot of people really love it, but I thought about it and I was like, you know, I don't think this is going to be for me. I think it's going to end up being a DNF in the future, or I'm going to push through and just hate it. Next up, randomly, we have Flamefall by Rosario Munda. I have a copy of Flamefall. So I actually was sent another copy of the book to do for a giveaway, and I ended up picking two giveaway winners, and they were both international. And so I was thinking, okay, well, this will probably be easier for me to just order it from an online retailer for them instead of shipping international. So I was like, well, now I have 2 copies of the book. So just like the other things and kind of on repeat here, I thought, well, this is a pretty new book. It's in great condition, and I was going to do a giveaway for it anyway. So in this instance, instead, it's going to go to my lovely local used bookstores, and you know how much I love Fireborn Flamefall, so I'm hoping that somebody finds it, and then they get excited, and then they can get it, and they can read it, and they can love it too. Next, okay, I didn't read this book. Actually, I lied a little bit ago when I said that Prince of Nothing was the one that I didn't read. This one I did not purchase, though. So I, every now and then, do sponsorships, and I work sometimes with Book of the Month. And when they do sponsorships with you, they send you all 5 of the books for that month. And it was so funny to me because I had just recently filmed a video about anti-bookish buzzwords. So the concept, I'm sure you know, of a bookish buzzword is what's something that you see in a description that as soon as you see that, something like assassin or chosen one, sometimes they're tropes, sometimes they're just words that aren't even tropes, they just make you instantly want to read the book. So I did a video about anti-bookish buzzwords. I just filmed this video and I kind of jokingly said anything by Taylor Jenkins Reid because it's basically anything about a Hollywood starlet or just a kind of she has the one that's like rock and roll band, but like something happened that broke up the band, and just not my cup of tea at all. And then one of the Book of the Month picks was a Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it had, not only was it Taylor Jenkins Reid, but it had another anti-bookish buzzword that I talked about, or phrase, which is the whole like the day that changed their lives forever, those kinds of phrases, something along those lines. A day, something to do with a day that just wreaks havoc on people's lives, and it's so chaotic and their lives are never the same. And that's, I feel like, was literally in the description for the book Malibu Rising? Yes, Malibu Rising. I don't know why I paused so awkwardly there. But it was like, oh, there's this one day of this rich family and they're all getting together and they're having some kind of party or something that I'm like, wow, this is literally everything I'm not interested in. I've actually seen some fantastic reviews for the book, but it's so just not something I'm going to want to pick up. So took this one in also. Last, we have The Death of Vivek Ochi. So this is a book that I think has some very important themes and topics. It also takes place in Africa, in Nigeria specifically, so the setting is different and gives us a different perspective on these difficult topics. In this instance, it's about acceptance or the lack of, or the fear of not being accepted because of the patterns that society has shown. So we follow a character that, well, we follow kind of a lot of different characters. It's very fractured, and I think intentionally so. The main kind of point of the book is, how do you accept yourself? How do you love yourself? How do you even exist in a society that won't accept you? How can you live when being who you really are and how you feel inside? If you express that outwardly, what do you do if the society has shown that they will be violent toward you? And we kind of see this interesting fractured group of people. We see a fractured timeline, and they're kind of tackling the repercussions of this fact of life for a lot of people, that they won't be accepted for who they are. I thought that the themes were incredibly powerful, and there were so many important things brought up in this book, but I actually wish we'd spent more time with the transgender character who's kind of at the center of this book, because there are the author made some very bold choices on how they went about showing characters discovering not only this particular character, how they discover things about themselves, but other characters as well. And the decisions that the author made are definitely ones that are not going to appeal to a lot of people. And something that I think I would have liked more is just if we had gotten to see the character more, because we see other people's perspectives of them. And I had just wished that we'd gotten more of that character themselves, so that we could have seen why they decided to make the decisions that they did, or why they felt comfortable with certain people, why they didn't feel comfortable with other people, why they felt, just in general, I think I wanted it more on them, because the concept of the book and the themes of the book are more centered around them, but it's actually more of the way in which that person's life has the effect it does on other people and those people's thoughts and how those people see that character. And I think it was probably intentionally done the way it was done, but ultimately I just think maybe even more time, because it was quite short and I read it in one sitting basically, and I just would have liked more time with, I think, everybody ultimately. I did a vlog where I talk about this book a little bit more if you would like some details. I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, and I go into mild spoilers, so I apologize for how probably it seems like I'm talking in circles right now, but if you want a little bit more detail, I'll have my vlog linked. That's it for some recent books that I have unhauled and a couple that I have DNF'd. Let me know if there are any books on this list that you ultimately actually loved, if you're wanting to pick up, if also didn't work for you. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.